Good morning, everybody. Welcome back here to another episode of Life on 2. Today I had a little technical difficulty with my GoPros and I'm waiting for my girlfriend to get her nails done, so I figured it'd be a great idea to shoot a video in a parking lot. And what better thing to talk about in a parking lot than slow speed maneuvers. For me, as a motorcyclist, it's the scariest thing on a motorcycle. It's the thing that you will most likely drop your bike. You'll most likely fall, especially when it's a heavy bike such as a Harley. So this is obviously some tips and tricks that I have based on my time riding Harley Davidsons, but they also still apply to motorcycles of all makes and models. I've tried this on a Yamaha MT-09 and MT-06, and the only difference is, and I'm going to talk a lot about the rear brake today because that is my favorite tool. There is a big difference between the Harleys and bigger soft-tail cruisers, let's say, not soft-tails but cruisers, and their sport bike counterparts. And I think that there's a lot more emphasis that comes from the rear brake on these cruiser motorcycles than there is from the sportier motorcycles. But like I said, still the same principle. Going to give you a quick overview of the controls on a motorcycle, how they work, then how we start to balance the motorcycle, and then starting to do left and right hand turns. So we're in a parking lot. This is actually a parking lot that I taught a few of my cousins, some of my friends, how to ride motorcycles very simply. And it's on a little bit of a slope, so it adds a little bit more of a challenge, but it's nothing for me. You know what I mean? I got this. Watch me drop my bike today on camera. It'd be awful. But so we're gonna get you guys familiar with the bike and then talk you through a little bit some of this stuff. Welcome to the front of the motorcycle. This right here is the clutch lever. If you don't know that by now, there's a bunch of videos that will probably give you a bunch of stuff on this bike. Fortunately, this is not that video. So I'm just going to kind of give you a quick overview on how the stuff works, and then put it into action. So we have our clutch lever on this side and our brake lever on this side. The clutch lever is really responsible for making you go, and it's very important for keeping the bike standing up. Even if it's at a complete standstill, there are some very advanced riders, not myself included, but a lot amongst the CHP, who can actually stand these bikes up, the heavy baggers, stand them completely still and straight up because of the clutch and the rear brake. On this side, on the bottom, we also have my shifter and the rear brake on the right. So quick way, if you don't know anything about motorcycles, to remember this: all of your shifting is done on your left side, and all of your braking and acceleration is done on your right side. It's not like a bicycle where you have two different brakes on either side. It's like a motorcycle. You know, you got your brakes on the right side and your shifting done on the left side. Some motorcycles have what's known as a suicide shifter, where they have a physical gear shift down low. And the reason why it's called suicide shifting is because you gotta take your hands off the bar and shift like down here. It's very, very complicated. So without any further ado, I think we're gonna hop on this motorcycle. I'm in a closed parking lot, so I don't think I'm gonna put my helmet on. I don't recommend that just because you can get a lot of serious brain injury. You know what? I think I'm gonna put on my helmet. It is California. It's a little slippery out right now. That's called safe thinking, and I'm gonna try and teach you guys something about, smart decision making. So now that I've got my helmet, and I'm just gonna give you a basic starter, all right? We'll get this going. Buckle up for safety, of course. Now that we have this together, hop on it. All right. So before we get started, the bike is on a gradual downhill, and that means two things. A, I'm not going to need as much clutch when I get started because gravity is going to help me out a lot. And B, I'm actually going to probably be going a little bit faster than what is really, really the slowest that I could go, just because it's downhill. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain to you, you know what, let me turn around so I can truly explain to you what the clutch means. Turn that bad boy on. All right, we're gonna turn around, be right back. Okay, so let me turn this off to explain to you what I'm going to do. So we're on an incline now this way. You won't be able to tell, but take my word for it. So to get the motorcycle started, and it's a very good practice, especially when it comes to low speed, because you need to know what's called the friction zone. Let me take this off. The friction zone is where the clutch is engaging your drive shaft or drivetrain, the belt, whatever it is. I don't know. So what we're going to do is we're going to get comfortable finding the friction zone. And the way you'll see that is you'll notice the bike will start to roll forward, and I'm just going to pull the clutch back in. then the bike will stop rolling. Then I'll let the bike go a little bit, then it'll start to roll. Excuse me, I'll let the clutch go a little bit, the bike will start to roll forward. I'll pull the clutch in, bike starts to fall back. So you'll see this, especially because we're on a hill right now. So I don't really need the helmet for this, but because we want to teach you guys safe motorcycle habits, you'll want to make sure you start them early. So let's start it back on. All right, we are in first gear, okay? Slow, and you see I'm rolling back because of the hill, no brakes. Now if I slowly start to let off on the clutch, I'll feel the bike start to vibrate, and look. Pull the clutch in, we roll back. Put the front brake on because we're going a little too fast. So again, let off on the clutch, bike starts to roll, right? We'll do that again a couple more times just to really show you what I'm talking about here. So I'll go back and then slowly let off the clutch, and now we're going to start walking the bike because that's where it is. In my opinion, I let off the clutch a little too fast because I started going a little too fast. So you really want to control it and get the practice of where it is. See, right here is the beginning of the friction zone. And I can tell because I'm not giving it any throttle, but I'm slowly walking by. You see? And so let off the clutch, the gravity pulls it back down a little too fast. So that's the basics of the friction zone. As far as the clutch, it supports the weight of the bike, and it does a lot for the balance because the engine is firing in a certain way and stuff. Next thing we're going to go over is this right here, which is my rear brake. Okay, it's very different. It's not like a bicycle. This is my front brake, my rear brake. Traditionally, I think you have 90% on a sports bike of your stopping power is coming, 90% of your stopping power is coming from your front brake. In the Harleys, I feel like it's more 70, 80, and obviously with the remainder being in your back brake. And the reason why I mention that is because when I was practicing my slow speed maneuvers on an MT-09, I noticed that I wasn't getting enough slowing power from the rear brake, and I was giving a little bit too much clutch. So the rear brake is really, it feels like a 10% on these sport bikes or naked bikes, whatever it is. On the cruisers, even on the baggers, it's almost up to 30%, to be honest. So now that we spoke about the clutch and the brake, and I demonstrated how you can use that in a straight line, we're gonna add something a little bit. We're gonna throw a curveball at you, all right? We're gonna throw a literal curve in there. So for the purpose of this video, I'm only going to make rights because that's my stronger side, but you can do this with lefts. It's the exact same principle. So what we're going to do now is that we've gotten our clutch and our brake controls together. You understand how they interact with each other. When we go into a turn, there is a principle of counterbalancing the bike, because when you're turning the bike in there, this 600-pound machine is going to want to lean over into the turn. So you need to take your weight, which is your body, and offset that weight. So in this example, when I'm making a right turn, I'm going to be shifting my body to the left. I have a potentially a rather large head, so I use a lot of my helmet and my head weight to help offset it for me, as well as my shoulders and sometimes my butt, depending on how tight I want to make that turn. So when we get that started, then you guys will see what it is that I'm talking about. You feel much more hunched over and you feel more like a dirt bike, and you need to just control your clutch, a little bit of throttle and a little bit of brake, a lot of clutch though, a lot of clutch. That's what's important here. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to approach my turn doing 5 miles an hour, maybe 3. We're going to hit the turn. I'm leaning the bike, but I'm leaning my weight off, giving it enough gas, hugging this white line as tight as I can, giving it gas when I need to, and you see my feet never touched. So what I did is if I felt like the bike was going to fall, I add more throttle or clutch, whatever I feel like is needed in the moment. You can really, the bike will tell you. So I position my body to the left and almost lean the bike into the right, and still going, giving it more throttle when it's needed, and that was a very good turn. All right, so now that you guys understand how to turn using low speed maneuvers, as well as to use your clutch and your brake to operate your motorcycle in a low speed maneuver, I hope you guys go out and you practice this on your own. Take your own initiative. You have to go out in a parking lot like this and practice. When you're out riding, coming up to a red light, slow down and really try to keep your bike as straight up and down as possible, and try to practice to go as slow as possible, because in my opinion, that's where the real skill is. You can go fast all you want, but if you can keep your motorcycle up at a slow speed, then you're a pro. So you guys stay safe out there. Hope you enjoyed this video. If it's helpful and you'd like to see more how-tos on regarding motorcycle stuff, please let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, stay safe out there. And that's it.